Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My oratory skills are not as those of my predecessors, so I will not waste your time with an hour or two of speech. These are just some points that I would like to present to the present government, which would include Dr. Duguid, Minister Duguid. I've lived down here for 40 years. I came originally from St. Michael, the Bayland area. And in the Bayland area, I think they're planning to do something very similar to Carlisle Bay, which I do not know what's going to happen to all the Bayland people when they want to go have a swim. Yeah. Okay, so 40 years, and this is something I've worked. I was managing what was West Coast Mall for 20 years, which is now Massey Mall, Massey Supermarket, sorry. Now, I understand Mr. Duguid, when he was indicated that there was going to be some removal of this civic center, and the reasons why they were going to remove the civic center. One of the things that he said was that it was not safe. The location was not safe. Now, is it safe, not safe from what? Tsunamis, or from flooding, or from both? Because where the plan to put the new civic center is barely 16 meters above sea level, so that can't be safe either. So I would just like him to answer that, because as we all know, a tsunami can travel 2 miles inland, as was indicated, I can't remember what year, but that was in Indonesia, when they had around Christmas time, and so many people got killed. So rather, if you really want to put it somewhere, you have to put it on Mount Hillaby, which is 1,100 feet high. So that is a question I'd like him to answer. All right, judging from what I see going on as from a young man to now, we talk about this heritage. Now I know a lot of it is whose heritage are we talking about, really?
We can go and invite.
My heritage, your heritage, are all different. Because my heritage will not be the same as yours. Now, obviously, we have old buildings that were built in Barbados in the 17th century. Okay, Parliament building, and well, the one that was before this civic center was there. This was a fort. This is no longer a heritage building because this was built in my time. I watched it when it's being constructed. So it has nothing to do really with heritage as a building. So if it comes or goes, it wouldn't affect me heritage-wise. But it would affect the ambience of HOLETOWN. This quaintness, this niceness. Do we want to pull this down and put something like a Miami Beach? Another massive hotel? Right, exactly. And a big hotel that will have 300 tourists. Where on this beach you will put 300 tourists? Right now it's pretty run over with tourists. Not that I'm happy against tourists, because tourists bring me money as well. I'm not so stupid that to go and kick myself in the butt. Anyhow, if they take a look at what is happening in Spain and Italy and through the Mediterranean, the locals there are getting inundated with too much tourists in their town. And what have they done? The rating, well, a very soft rate, not exchanging rocks or knives, but they are up against it. In other words, it's social geography. When you have too many rats in a rat hole, they fight one another. So you don't want Barbados to become like another Spain or Italy or any of those Mediterranean countries. I would hate to see that happen. Lastly, the talk about flooding in HOLETOWN, and this is my last point. I was on a committee with the previous government, the LP, at that time was Minister George Hudson, and we were trying to figure out how we could intervene with the flooding in HOLETOWN. Now, the flooding in HOLETOWN does not originate in HOLETOWN. It originates through the gullies that empty the water up in the highlands, which then empty down into HOLETOWN. Well, I had made a suggestion then that the government could go through the gullies, gouge out large basin areas, and each one would overflow into the other. So we have 3 or 4 or 5, I don't know, in each gully. And that there, they can capture the water, use it for agriculture purposes, and use it for even as potable water. Now, subsequent to that, about 3 or 4 years after that was discussed, Tom Williams did something very similar in Apes Hill. Now, one individual can spend all that money on a massive lake, which is now the biggest lake in Barbados. Why can't the government do the same thing, and that would alleviate the flooding in HOLETOWN? Don't try to make an excuse that you're removing this because of the flooding. This is not, if you remove it, the flooding is still going to be here. So the hotel would have to deal with that flooding. So all I'm hearing is a lot of excuses of why they have to move this. I know enough money is going to be spent. I hope the money can be accounted for. Anyhow, that is the last of my suggestions and my concerns about what is happening in HOLETOWN. And not only in HOLETOWN, but I would think the rest of Barbados, where we see a lot of so-called heritage buildings being destroyed. The Garrison area, which was a UNESCO heritage site, it's gonna, if it keeps going like this, they will very well soon lose that heritage site. Antigua has done very much with their heritage in Admiral's Bay and so on. What's the name of the harbour? And they make a lot of money, a hell of a lot of money. I know people down Nelson, they could sell the Antigua's Nelson for $6 million and pump some of that money back into the economy. Thank you.
Big round of applause for Patrick. We do appreciate we have an open mic. My name is Victor Lewis, and several of you would have seen me before, and certainly this is an individual that would have engaged some conversation relative to what's going on in Joe's River, St. Joseph. And I would want to say to you that what I see here now in terms of this environment, this is where most of you came this evening to sit back, relax, and socialize. That is what we are doing in St. Joseph. That is what Joseph Gully, that is what Bathsheba means to us. Where we can go, sit back, relax, and socialize. But you'll hear from me a little later. We have the mic being open, but at this time I'm going to be calling upon Lynn to come and do her presentation. A big round of applause. Lynn coming out of Gibbs, St. Peter, to let you know her concerns. Lynn.
Great to see you here today. Thank you so much for coming. As my lovely friend Victor said, I am from Gibbs, well, Bunnings actually, in St. Peter, and I formed a group called the Gibbs Gully Preservation Society. I'll talk about that later. I'd like to just start by talking about what Barbados means to my family that I'm sure you will all resonate with. My husband, Giles, first came to Barbados in 1972 as a medical student, and whilst he was here he delivered 7 Barbados babies. Well, obviously the mothers did most of the work, but he likes to take the credit. So we had a long relationship with Barbados. I first came in the 1980s. I used to come every January, fell in love with it, and in fact when I was on that runway leaving the island as we were taking off, I would cry. And I knew that one day I had to live here. And when the time was right, we bought our first house here about 15 years ago. And we've lived in St. Lucy and St. James and now St. Peter. Obviously we love the island. Every weekend we take our dogs over to the East Coast and we'll walk on Morgan Lewis Beach or Bathsheba, or we'll walk down on down Joe's River at Cattle Wash. So we're not just West Coasters, we love all of Barbados. We've done a lot of walks on Concept Cutting, where we've been down to Concept Bay many times. We've walked from Concept Bay to Martins Bay to Bathsheba, to Bath and back. So we are, real Bajans. We is Bajan. I might look English, I might sound English, and I'm sure my DNA is English, but my heart belongs to Barbados. So we've, as I say, my children came from very, very tiny ones, and when they come over to see us, they all say, "Mum, I'm coming home," and this is where their heart is too. So now that we live here permanently and have done for some time, I don't have to cry anymore when I do leave, which isn't very often and not for very long, because as we say about hey, I gone to come back. So, you know, the Barbados is in our absolute soul, it really is. So getting round to Gibbs Gully. About 2 years ago, a neighbour of mine said that they'd been visited by an English developer who was trying to keep it all very dark and quiet, asked her not to say anything. And he was going to start building on the gully which her house backed onto. And I thought, oh, hang on a minute, that's not right. He's not supposed to build on gully, and especially as it's a watercourse. So I got in touch with Town and Country Planning, who first of all said, no, that can't be right. It's illegal to build on watercourse. So I said, well, that's what I've been told. Can you look into it? So they did, and they came back and they said, yeah, there is permission to build on that watercourse in Gibbs Gully. So I said, oh, sorry, but this isn't right. So I got the Nation newspaper, a reporter and a photographer, and we walked around the gully and some neighbours, and we showed them what was going to be ruined if this went ahead. And we had a feature in the Nation which I turned into a leaflet, and then I trudged around all the streets in Gibbs and Mullins and letterboxed everybody, and formed this group of, now we've got over 60 households who are trying to protect the gully. Now the gully permission was given in 2010 to a company that was called Planet Barbados. It's owned by a different developer now. But no ground was ever broken. And if they don't break ground, they're supposed to reapply every 5 years for the permission to be rolled forward. This is now 15 years on and still ground has not been broken. So 2010, 2015, 2020, 2025, it's due to be rolled over again. And this is why it's so important for us to try and save Gibbs Gully and try and get that permission to build on it and turn it into just concrete townhouses just revoked. They want to build a lot, just not on the gully, but also at the side of the gully. They want to put up a big hotel, which is inland. They want to build 150 houses, villas, clubhouse, tennis courts, and all the rest of it, and turn it into a resort. Well, it's not a resort. It's a semi-rural area. It's a residential area, and I can't see it working as a resort. People come to Barbados to be beachside or whatever. And again, we're not against Barbados being developed appropriately, but we are against it being ruined. And this gully is beautiful. We've got some creatures that live in there that are actually under extinction threat, so we want to save that. The water that comes down from the eastern ridges pours down there when we have heavy rains. It turns into a torrential river, and if that water doesn't go through the soil and the tree roots, it will go into Gibbs Bay and kill that coral in Gibbs Bay. We can't let that happen. So we all have to stand together, Joes River, the HOLETOWN people, everybody, stand together to stop these greedy opportunists and these people that have the power to make decisions to save Barbados for everyone. We have to stand together and fight. And I thank you so much for coming. Thank you for giving me your time to listen, and I pray that we can be successful. Thank you very much.
So thankful again, another big round of applause for Lynn. And we want to see this crowd double, we want to see it triple, we want to see it quadruple. On the 9th of March, yes, basically 2 weeks from now, we'll be going to Gibbs Gully for a similar activity. Give her a round of applause for making that arrangement so that we can let the people of the West Coast understand that development is not only about the physical dimension, but we have a social part of our lives that we will maintain. We have a wonderful open mic, a whole atmosphere where we can speak, where we can allow the leaders of this country to understand where we stand. I would want to hear from Kiki at this time. Kiki. Big round of applause for Kiki.
And she is a visitor to our country and certain she's taking the opportunities to let her voice be heard. Kiki.
Thank you very much. I didn't plan to say anything. So I'm a visitor, as you can hear by my accent. I'm not born in Barbados. I'm a visitor and one of the visitors who very much love Barbados. But from a visitor perspective, why do we come here? We come, of course, for the beach, the sun, and the people, and the sea. We do not come for the high rises. We do not come for the high rises. And if you look at what's happening, the 8th-floor Hotel Indigo in Hastings, a 7th-floor monstrosity going up at Discovery Bay, the big Hyatt in Carlisle Bay, the building is going up in Sixman in St. Peter. Haywood has just announced it's going to be developed. BlackRock, the Four Seasons is starting to build. We all know the old warehouses that were torn down in the Carronage down in Bridgetown, and the, whatever, 10, 12 floors are going up. Visitors don't come for high rises. If we want to have our holiday at a place with high rises, we go to Spain, it's a lot cheaper. We go to Benidorm, it's cheaper. We can go to Mexico, it's cheaper. Here, if all this is going to be built up with apartments and hotels, it's not going to be attractive for visitors. That's my, thank you very much for letting me speak. I know it's your platform, but it's my
Again, round of applause for Kiki. She is only a visitor to this country and can see the degree of monstrosities that they intend to erect to bring this beautiful landscape into a concrete jungle. It will not work. Not down, I like that one. Say that again, not down here. We get our next speaker, Peter Thompson. That's his name, Peter Thompson. Not a round of applause, come on.
Friends, Bajans, visitors, I want you to understand this probably from an overly analytical perspective. I'm a management consultant, I'm a real estate professional. The fact is that this is a bad idea. Of course, we rely on the tourism industry, but this, one of the cornerstones of the tourism industry, is the social license, which allows us to welcome tourists rather than resent them. We cannot risk this profound damage to this social license. Kiki, right before me, spoke eloquently from a visitor's perspective, which gives you insight into precisely why our tourism industry is successful. People will try to tell you that investing hundreds of millions of new dollars into tourism development will make our industry more successful. This is erroneous. It is not factual. And what's more, it's going to destroy our tourism industry. The things which make Barbados valuable as a tourism destination are not the same things which you get on Costa del Sol or the Mexican Riviera. We are 166 square miles, which means that we have no latitude to overshoot our capacity. It is not as though we can put up a Hyatt and take it down. When we put up a Hyatt, Hyatt has no skin in the game. Hyatts will have a management lease. And when it stops being profitable, they will walk away. They will walk away and leave us with an 18-story white elephant. They will walk away. We cannot use the temptation for particular interests to pour a lot of concrete and make a lot of money and destroy our society in the process. We need not to simply say to the government, don't do this. We need to tell them what to do. And in my humble opinion, this is part of what to do. This site must maintain its civic function. Not necessarily the same civic function that it now has. The police can go find another spot, but the fact is that the site has to be, to a significant extent, for the people of Barbados. There are ways of developing HOLETOWN which do not destroy HOLETOWN. We cannot allow greed to fracture our society more than it already has. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. My name's Andy Armstrong. I'm born and raised in Barbados. I've lived in Sunset Crest across the street for the last 40 years. So this is where I come and swim. This is where I come and watch the football games and maybe have something to eat or drink. So this is going to affect me personally, but it's going to affect a lot of people, not only locals, but a lot of tourists come and use Surfside, come and swim at this beach already. And what I want you to do is just look over here, just behind us. This hotel is 3 stories high. Try to imagine 9 stories. For me, it's frightening. A 9-story hotel somewhere in this area. I know Surfside haven't heard officially, but I'm told they're gone if this goes through, and I really don't want to see that happen. Possibly if we can afford it, there'll be something there that you can still come and get a drink. But I bet you it won't be the price that Surfside is charging. So I think we just need to look very practical. I'm heartened by Dr. Crystal Haynes. She is a government senator, and she really must be very brave to have spoken out on this. So well done to her. And I'm heartened because the Minister of Planning, Mr. Duguid, he said they haven't sold this yet, so it's not quite a done deal, even though, you know, we keep hearing whispers, we can't do anything. Obviously, we can still do something, and it's heartening that he's saying it's not a done deal. The law, the new planning law, requires a town hall meeting. It requires advertising in the newspaper and on the internet. It requires a large sign erected here saying we are proposing to demolish the civic center and put up a 9-story hotel. And we want to make sure that the government actually follows the law that they themselves drafted. So I am looking forward to that town hall, but I want to make sure that it's not too late, that by the time it comes we don't hear, oh dear, if only we had known before, we might have done things differently, but it's too late. I don't think it's too late. So let's make sure we make our voice heard and that we preserve this area for Barbadians and tourists alike. Thank you.
Anne Harding, a big round of applause for Anne Harding.
I'm going to be quick. I don't want to take too much of your time, but and I have said this directly to Mia Motley at the town hall that she held up here at the school. I say, culture is like a reputation. It takes a long time to build up, but it's pretty quick to knock down. You know, and I think that if you're being told to hate your culture, to despise the past, why is that? They just want to build something new with their name on it. I don't know. But I do think that as a relatively newly minted Barbadian, that there's buildings in HOLETOWN. I'm sure a lot of people like them, and I'm glad to see that this was organized by locals. I was worried that only tourists liked it, you know. But it is iconic, and I think it would be, you know, ripping the heart out of the people here to suddenly one day see just a huge wall and to hear the wrecking balls behind it, right? And it's not about tourism, and it's not entirely about beach access, because they can give you a little alleyway this big, like they plan to do down by the new building downtown, right? A little alleyway this big, or up in Haywoods. They plan to give you a little way this big that you can get through. It's not about that. It's about this. All right.
Mark Simmons. A big round of applause for Mark. And just remember, we have an open mic. Open.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Mark Simmons, and my family is 5 generations HOLETOWN. From my mother's side primarily, my mother's 5 generations HOLETOWN with my son there. My father's side is 3 generations HOLETOWN. My grandfather was the captain of police right here in this place. I learned to water ski down here. I was here for the very first HOLETOWN festival. The families that were here, I remember them very dearly. The Carews, the Holders, the Hudsons, the Clarks. These are HOLETOWN people, HOLETOWN families. Over many, many years, I was here. I met Germans, Italians, people from France, Canada, England, all over the world. And everyone said the same thing. They love Barbados the way it is, the soft feeling of it, the accessibility of it, the trees, the beach, and the people. That's what makes Barbados what it really is, right? The people and the ambiance, as was stated earlier. Now, Anne said something very, very important. She asked us, challenged us really, well, what's wrong with our history? What's wrong with our past? And as human beings, many of us have an issue with our past. Just last night I was watching, I can't remember what it was I was watching, but the man said, or the lady said, you must reconcile yourself with your past to move forward. You cannot be successful without reconciling yourself with your past. And one of the places that I visited recently was South Carolina. South Carolina, I was on a tour there, on a tour bus, doing a tour about Charleston. And when you get to the visitor center, they have a huge billboard that talks about Barbados and how Barbados is basically the mother of South Carolina in so many ways, culturally and especially architecturally. And there, the most beautiful houses, the biggest mansions are chattel houses. I mean, like pristine, the trellis work you might see on some of the National Trust houses here, these houses are replete with it. It's a source of pride. It's a source of pride. One of our founding fathers, we've been blessed with many, many, many great leaders from both political divides and that kind of thing. Grantley Adams, Errol Barrow, Charles Duncan O'Neill, Erskine Sanford, Tom Adams. Whether you like them or not, doesn't matter. They've done well for Barbados. Yes. Okay? Errol Barrow asked us, what is your self-image? How do you look at yourself?
Okay.
I am blessed that somehow, or we are blessed that somehow our generations understand. Many years ago, my son came to me and he said, Dad, I want you to hear this song. It's the best song I've ever heard in my life. I thought I was going to hear a hip-hop song, boom, bap, bap. And he played this song, and it was Earth, Wind, and Fire, a song that was started before he was even born. I say that because just a couple of weeks ago, he said to me, Dad, what do you think about the Civic Center being sold? I said, I don't agree with it. He says, yeah, and they're selling the drill hall too. I don't understand how we're claiming we have a cultural heritage ambassador, we have a heritage designation where we're selling all of our cultural icons, our cultural properties. It doesn't make sense. There's something where it's not in balance, we're not in coherence. And so one of the things that I believe in completely is that you work towards your ideal. You don't stay here and go and wait till I'm perfect to do the thing. We're here now, we're evolving, we're growing, we can identify what's important to us. And as Andy said, as every speaker said before me, I'm not saying anything new, we have a voice. We're blessed to live in a democracy, a beautiful democracy, a peaceful, loving democracy like Barbados, where our voices can be heard, and where we can chart our future government of the people, by the people, for the people, means the people need to express what they want. It means the people need to open their mouths and say, hey, this is what we want. It's not a fight, it's not an argument, nobody's evil or wicked or none of that. Hey, this is what we want.